Hi everybody. As we all have, we've been looking at YouTube and working out how to make PVC bows and having a bit of fun in the backyard with them. But what I wanted to show you is how to actually make some good PVC limbs if you happen to have a wooden riser or you're deciding to make one, which are quite strong, flexible and pretty powerful. I think I'm pulling about 40 to 50 pounds, and after about 200 shots they're still perfect and stay really good. What the trick I've found is to make them strong and flexible and still fairly light and everything, but really nice to pull and to keep their shape, is what I do is I get some sort of 3/4 inch PVC tube from what we call here is big hardware store called Bunnings. Other countries like America it's called Home Depot, same sort of thing. And inch inner diameter tube. So you've got the inch and the 3/4. Sorry, these are only offcuts just to show you. But and basically, if you want to make a single, so if you put that inside there, and you can see other videos of double tubed bows for strength, and squash that down, then you get reinforcement inside it, as well as it holds this, instead of being dead flat, it holds it out, sort of gives it a bit of shape to give it the rigidity, but also your spring for your bow limb. Now what I've found is, and I've tried two different types, is the first one we have here. This is a single inner layer, and you can see the limb here. Basically what I did was I slid one piece of tube inside the other piece of tube and squashed it. Now the inside piece of the tube only comes up to where the recurve starts, about here. So the recurve's still only the single piece of inch inner diameter tube, so that you still get a nice snap from the end of it, and it can flex a lot. But the centerpiece of the limb, all the way through the middle of it, all this section here, is double layer. Then what I've done on my bow as well, as you can see it's shining there in the light and I can't get the picture perfect, is added a real thin piece of aluminium in there. Now that aluminium, that only goes up on this one, it's a 10 centimeters or 100 millimeters just there, and that's basically just to reinforce where the bolt holes go. Now the reason I put it on the inside instead of putting it on the top to reinforce it was there was one main reason, and that's purely because what it does is it allows you, gives you that slight more thickness inside it, so that when you squash the limb flat under the wood, when you press it, it gives you more of a tapered shape to it. Now this has only got a slight taper to it, but it's enough to sort of keep the opening out. So you can see there the gap around it, the opening and the thickness of the sort of, basically it ovals the outer tube a little bit more so that it gives it a bit more spring. Because as with any bow, the centerpiece, especially with fiberglass laminated bow limbs and stuff, the wood up the center, while it also gives flex and a little bit of force, the actual performance of the limb comes from the laminations on the outside, and basically the wood keeps the laminations apart from touching each other, and that's what gives it the power. Now what I did was, and I haven't finished these ones off yet, but which are a little bit shorter and a hell of a lot more powerful. You can see there's a few little bubbles and kinks that I have to get out of them, but I've tried them and they work really well. These ones are a lot thicker, And what I did with that is it's got two pieces inside it, and as well as the aluminium. And then when that's pressed down, as you can see, you can even see the lump there, that becomes a lot thicker limb. And if we just put the two next to each other, you can see the difference there in the limbs. Now the difference with the thicker limb as well is the first insert, the top layer, these limbs are 60 centimeters, 600 mil long. What I did with that was the top layer is 40. So say it comes to here. Then the second layer is 50. So you've got a 600 mil total length, 600 millimeters. Then 40 or 400 millimeters, 40 centimeters, is one layer of the thinner tube, and then 50 centimeters or 500 millimeters is another piece of thinner tube with just the straight outer tube squashed at the ends for the last bit of the recurve to give you that snap, the spring in the end, and a little bit more flexibility. As well as you can see again, it's got the aluminium in there, which gives you that shape. So you can see between the two, when you put both next to each other, you can see the difference. It's a lot thicker, and it gives it a lot more oval to the actual outer tube, which is where your power is coming from. But being that it's got the inner tube inside it, when it does flex, it can't kink on itself. And if you've made a few PVC bows and pulled them back a bit too hard, you notice that you'll get kinks and snaps probably around the handle, somewhere around the base of each limb, where if it's too thin, it tends to kink back in on itself. Now you can see the PVC writing. Now this is only fairly thin. It's about 3mm wall thickness, this PVC. But I used it purposely for it was a little bit lighter, a little bit easier to work with, and tends to be real snappy and springy. Now what I did and how I made these ones in such a way with two tubes inside it is a little bit more of an art than this. The single one, slide the other piece of pipe up through the center of it, heat the whole thing up as hot as you can get it, which will heat the internal pipe as well, and then just squash it. It's pretty simple. Once it's hot, just slide the aluminium in once you've flattened it, and it's fairly easy. With the double layer, it takes a little bit of extra trick. What you have to do is get your thinner piece of pipe, and what you want to do is you want to get your lengths, cut them to the right length to suit your limbs and how you want to do it. Like I said, I staggered it, which actually works really well. Get them and heat these first and squash them dead flat. Completely flatten those as far as you can flatten them with your wood. Then set those aside. I actually masking tape, just put a bit of masking tape around the two layers together first so it held them together. Then I got the thicker tube and I heated that whole length up as hot as I could get it so it was really malleable and flexible and stretchy and really soft. And while the other flattened out inserts of the smaller pipe, which are here, while they were still cold and they were hardened and kept their shape, I basically pushed those inside the bigger tube while the outer tube was red hot. So that basically gave me my basic shape and spread the tube out to the thickness of the flattened smaller tube. Then it was as simple as sliding in the aluminium brace to get your little bit of extra thickness, then reheating the whole thing again and flattening it out. And you get a really nice shape to it, And while it's fairly thick, it's probably half an inch, maybe a little bit thicker. With the reinforcements, you tend to have a really strong, solid limb, and you can hear them. They're not flexible pieces, they're hard, solid pieces. But I've found, and I'll post more videos of the whole bow back together. I've actually pulled it apart because I'm re-lacquering the riser, and doing some finishing. But when you see it, and I'll show you some shooting, you'll see what I mean. It works really well, and the fact that the inner tube stops the outer tube from collapsing under full tension makes a hell of a difference. Anyway, so enjoy, have a bit of fun. Get the wood saw out and some hardwood, make yourself a riser, and then it's as simple as going to the hardware store and spending about $10 on some PVC tube and a short length of aluminium, sorting out your holes and whatnot, and away you go. Thanks.